What?
गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। आज हम बात करेंगे some of my thoughts on Xi Jinping thought. We keep talking Xi Jinping thought kya hai, and most of us have never been able to decipher what it is, not been able to understand what it is, and then I've been trying to decipher how he thinks. What is Xi Jinping all about? This new book casts some, ideas on that. It's called The Political Thought of Xi Jinping. It's just out. I have not read it, to be very honest. I would like to read it. Uh, a friend of mine, another viewer, uh, Lalit from USA, he sent it to me. He sent some extracts to me. Then I went to the net, searched, and then I saw a beautiful podcast by one of the authors, Olivia Cheong, and I listened to it. From there, I drew my initial ideas, and with those initial ideas, I have put together जो हमने पहले बात किया था सी जिनपिंग के बारे में, उससे मिला के आपको मैं I'll explain it to you, and then you'll realize where China is going and where Xi Jinping is going. Very interesting. And I've come across a few fantastic articles on where Chinese economy is heading and where their science and technology, and which I keep talking of, is going. I feel that they are heading into 5 dead ends. One is a political dead end. The second is a technological and scientific dead end. Right? And third is, of course, their economic dead end. The fourth is their population. And fifth probably is their geopolitical dead end. 5 dead ends. I am in the process of putting them together with different ideas from different people. And maybe I'll, a little later, once I firm up my ideas, I'll put it across. And these are ideas not of mine. I'm extrapolating from what others have said. जो बाकियों ने बोला है, उसके आधार पर मैं अपना थियोरी आपको प्रपोज करूंगा. ये थोड़ा नया थियोरी है कि चाइना, इनके जो डेड एंड या कल्टी सैक बोलो या अंधा रास्ता, राइट, से वो कैसे निकल नहीं पाएगा, रहेगा पर आगे नहीं बढ़ पाएगा. बट दैट्स लेटर. टुडे विल टॉक ऑफ थॉट्स ऑन Xi Jinping thought. ओके, समथिंग वेरी फंडामेंटल एंड इम्पोर्टेंट. इसका मूल आइडिया क्या है? ये है इसका मूल आइडिया. I mean, you think this is a modern art picture या कुछ ऐसा है? नहीं है. ये इसका थॉट है. ये इसका Xi Jinping का थॉट. एक इसने एक बंदे को लगाया और उसने Xi Jinping का थॉट को पूरा इस तरीके से विद फैमिली ट्री बनाया. अब इतना कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है ये थॉट कि आपको और हमें तो बिल्कुल समझ में नहीं आएगा. और यही कहानी है इसका. इसीलिए ये क्या सोचता है, क्या करता है, why he does what he does is never known because it's so complicated. इसको देख के तो हमारा दिमाग घूम जाता है. You get lost in the labyrinth of these thoughts. I mean, as simple as that. But then let's look at it rationally, right? From what I could make out from this book, because this book actually deciphers Xi Jinping thought. Now, Xi Jinping wrote his thought around 2013, He officially took over as the president of China and as the general secretary of the party and the CMC head. And it was in 1415 that he came out with his Xi Jinping thought. Normally in China, Mao came out with his thought much later. Deng Xiaoping never gave his thoughts. And, but this fellow gave it within 1 year, he gave his thought. And no one understands his thought so far. For the first time after 10 years, someone has extrapolated कि इसने क्या बोला है और इसने क्या किया है. Let me tell you at the outset, whatever he has written or his thought, he has done. That's important. जो भी इसने बोला है, वो उसने वो किया है. Now, as per this whole story, uh, this chap Xi Jinping बोलता रहता है, go back to the Marxist theory, Leninist, Maoism. We don't even understand. ये है क्या? What is Marxism? What is Leninism? किसी को पता है? ये तो पिछले सदी में हुआ था, last century. No one knows what it is. But let me put it. Marx was an economist. He was not a political ideologue. He spoke of a classless society. He spoke of where the proletariat or the working class get their due share. And he spoke of this idea of communism was the commune or a community owns everything. And capitalism is out, where workers get their wages. That was his thought, Karl Marx. He wrote his economic theory called Das Kapital, along with a chap called Friedrich Engels. Where did he write it? England. Where did Marx die? In England. Okay? He didn't die in Russia. So, and there are communists in China, not in China. There are communists even today in England and in USA. Okay? And some of these Democrats, the extreme left, are actually communists. So don't think communism is only with China. But the extreme form of communism today is in China, or the majority form of communism is in China. So he spoke of Marxism. Marxism was more of a theoretical construct. It was not a practical vision. Lenin gave it a practical vision through a revolutionary principle. He led the revolution. He was the ideologue for the revolution of the October Revolution in Russia. And he said, where Marx was saying it was only for, cities and it was only for economic purposes, Lenin propagated it all over. I'm putting it in very simplistic words, so that aam aadmi ko samajh mein aata hai. Right? People who have read about this might have a view of their own. I'm not contending them. So Lenin was revolutionary in nature. एक करने वाला आदमी था. He took Marx ideas and put it into action, and he took it to the countryside also. Marx never spoke of the countryside. He was more interested in destroying the capitalistic society in an industrial and urban area. Lenin took it to the masses, and he took it to mobilize the masses against the czarists. It was a class revolution which he put. Right. Now, if you see movies like Dr. Zhivago and all that, you'll see this thing between the czarists and the communists. Leninism was more revolutionary and a little more violent. Actually, in this book, they talk of Xi Jinping speaks of Marxism, but actually looks at Leninism. Lenin is ideal. And then he puts Mao Zedong. because ये तो माओ का चेला है. And Mao's thing was very violent. He was complete revolutionary. And then what he does, he integrates the traditional Chinese thinking in this whole construct of his thought of a communism. The thing about Xi Jinping is he is a cutter communist. Let's not have any doubt. In the as far as uh, his ideology, his way of doing things, it is more Leninist and Maoist than Marxist. But he is not interested in being as revolutionary as Maoist, as Mao Zedong. He doesn't want that. He still wants to have the economic happiness of Deng Xiaoping. ये फर्क है. And then he has mixed the traditional Chinese thought based on Confucius and that thinking. So it's a mix and match. बात यह है कि इसमें कोई ओरिजिनल है ही नहीं. ये सब चेपू है, कट पेस्ट आर्टिस्ट है ये. Incidentally, in 2010 or so, this chap was a vice president. He went to USA. And I've read, when he went to the USA, when people interacted with him, uh, people felt he was a dull guy who doesn't have brains, and he was speaking to them more about color revolutions, how color revolutions take place. He was worried even then of color revolutions. कि कहीं ना कहीं अपने क्रांति ना आए कम्युनिस्ट चाइना में. So when people took over, they didn't know anything much about him. I'll talk about it a little later. Neither did he write anything, nor was he known in the communist parties for doing something great. No original thinking. आजकल ये एक बंदा है वैंग ह्यूनिंग इसका आइडियोलॉग है और वो ताइवान को हैंडल करता है सब कुछ. बट he doesn't talk of his own except that his Xi Jinping thought. वो इसका बाइबल. So if you read Xi Jinping thought and you see how he has behaved, which I'll tell you, you will see exactly that he has gone as per that thought. उसने लिख दिया पूरा. So that is why this whole story is important कि इसको दोबारा पढ़ना पड़ेगा हमें in detail. And then we have to, हमारा जो स्ट्रेटेजी है उस प्रकार इसके के साथ मैच करना पड़ेगा. Okay. There are two fundamental ideas in this thing. Grand idea इसका क्या है? First, internal. कि one China, one party, one leader, one people, one ideology. चाइना ऐसा होना चाहिए. खूबसूरत चाइना, एक चाइना, वन चाइना. मतलब जहां भी चाइना वाला है वो चाइना है और जहां इसके इर्द गिर्द सब कुछ वन चाइना. और ये वन चाइना का आकार कहाँ है? न्यू स्टैंडर्ड मैप में. मैं ये दृश्य नहीं दिखा रहा हूं, मैंने बहुत बार बोल दिया. दैट इज द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ वन चाइना. वन पार्टी, ओनली कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी. One leader, only Xi Jinping. He has not spoken of what beyond Xi Jinping. Okay? And this is a thing about all autocrats and communists. वो कौन पीछे आ रहा है वो उसके बारे में कभी बात नहीं करते. उनका इसमें हम ही है और कोई नहीं है. वन पीपल, चाइनीज. चाहे चाइना वाला कहीं भी हो, अमेरिका में हो, इंडिया में हो, श्रीलंका में हो, सिंगापुर में हो या ताइवान में हो, ही इज चाइनीज एंड हैन. Period. And his allegiance is to China. That's his big idea. One ideology, communist ideology. इसके अलावा कोई ideology नहीं है. And that is not only for internal, external भी. So what is his external? National dream of rejuvenation, rejuvenation of the Chinese dream, पैक्स सिनिका, जैसे पैक्स अमेरिका, पैक्स ब्रिटानिका बोलते हैं, पैक्स इंडिका, तो पैक्स सैनिका is that the Sinic civilization is supreme and which strives for a Sinocentric world order. ये हम बार बार बोलते रहते हैं. What is this Sinocentric world order? ओके, सो मैं क्या है कि ये मोटा मोटा इसका दो मूल आइडिया है, सिद्धांत भी नहीं है, ये आइडिया है. ओके, इसके अलावा इसके इसने 7 स्ट्रेटेजी बताया है इसके थॉट में, और ये जो इस बुक में इन्होंने डिस्कस किया है 7 स्ट्रेटेजी. ये क्या 7 स्ट्रेटेजी हैं मैं आपको संक्षिप्त में बताऊंगा, क्योंकि पूरा बताना आपको 2-3 घंटा लग जाएगा. ओके, सो द फर्स्ट स्ट्रेटेजी इज his strategy for this grand China, one rule, all that nonsense, is ensure Communist Party of China rules China without any competition, whether it is internal or external. ये important है. Only the Communist Party will rule China. और कोई पार्टी होगा नहीं. No competition to Communist Party. इंटरनल का मतलब क्या है कि डेमोक्रेसी होने के सवाल ही नहीं है. एक्सटर्नल का मतलब क्या है कि ही शुड प्रिवेंट कलर रेवोल्यूशन, कोई और आके हमें चेंज ना करे, ये डर है इसका. ओके, द सेकंड स्ट्रेटेजी, चाइना शुड बी रूल्ड बाय अ स्ट्रांग लीडर विथ हु कैन सेफगार्ड द नेशनल इंटरेस्ट एंड सिक्योरिटी. ये जो नेशनल इंटरेस्ट एंड सिक्योरिटी, ये पहले 8-9 साल इसने बात नहीं किया. 2022 में ये 20th पार्टी कांग्रेस में इसने ये सिक्योरिटी का शुरू कर दिया आलाप. एंड दिस नेशनल सिक्योरिटी एंड इंटरेस्ट एंड सिक्योरिटी इज सपोर्टेड बाय एंटी करप्शन क्लिंजिंग. एंटी करप्शन मीन्स व्हाट? एनीथिंग अगेंस्ट Xi Jinping or the Communist Party or someone who's trying to become a leader is thrown out, purged. जितना पर्जिस इसने किया है अपना, अभी तो इसका 11th ईयर हो गया है, इनफैक्ट 11th ईयर 12th ईयर इनफैक्ट. In 12 years he has purged more than what Mao or Deng Xiaoping did. Purging in a communist system is normal. In a semi-communist system like Russia, I would call it a semi-communist system, or an extreme socialist system, a socialist autocracy like Putin. He's also purging. He just purged Shaji Shoku, his defense minister, and उसके साथ जितने भी प्यादे हैं out हैं. So purging is important. The third strategy is ideological indoctrination of the people to love the party and toe the party line. कि भाई आपको दिमागी तौर पर आपको हावी हो जाओ आपके ऊपर, that you toe the party line and you love the party whether you like it or not. उसके लिए you are, it is not that ये बात ये नहीं है कि आज आप पार्टी को लाइक करो कल ना करो ना. This is done right from schools. So जब आप पढ़ते हो ABC या चाइना में जो भी होता है, whatever it is, hieroglyphics. So when you start your education in school, you are taught Xi Jinping thought. That love your party, love the nation, all that nonsense. And this ideological indoctrination is very interesting because it brainwashes you from the end, from very young days to go this route. आपको और कोई सोचता नहीं है, ठीक है? Okay? Follow the Xi Jinping thought in schools, culture and science. So whatever in terms of culture and science is taught is also taught through Xi Jinping thought. दिस इज समथिंग लाइक व्हाट्स हैपनिंग इन पाकिस्तान. पाकिस्तान में क्या होगा कि क्या क्या है वो, इस्लाम is taught by decree in Pakistan, and science is being influenced by Islam. So, at some stage, that will start degenerating in China also. I mean, look, let's be very clear. Anything which is based on such ideology of oneness, ek party, ek religion, ek ye, you have this problem. That is why even in our, society, you find some of these people who say too much of Hindutva, too much, कि उसको और कुछ सूझता नहीं है, उसको मतलब साइंस भी वो उसी लेंस से देखता है. दैट्स बैड. सो पार्ट ऑफ दिस इज ही सेज शट आउट वेस्टर्न लिबरलिज्म एंड फ्रीडम ऑफ थिंकिंग. बंदा और कोई कुछ सोचने की उसका अधिकार नहीं है. वो वही सोचेगा जो जी जिनपिंग बताएगा. सप्रेस सिविल सोसाइटी फ्रॉम एंटरटेनिंग एनी अदर थॉट. आपको सोच की स्पेस नहीं है. रेगुलेटेड सोसाइटी थ्रू स्ट्रिक्ट लॉस एंड विथ ओबीडियंस. मतलब आपने यहां से वहां जाना है तो एक ही रास्ते में जाओगे, चाहे वो लंबा हो या छोटा हो, जो कठिन हो या उससे अच्छा अगर आपको रास्ता है वो आप नहीं जा सकते. रास्ता एक ही है और उसको आपको फॉलो करना पड़ेगा. तो द रेगुलेटरी प्रोसेस इन सोसाइटी इज वेरी हाई. ओके, सो the next strategy is Z's upgrade of the social contract. This is very, very important. As per the social contract of the communists with the people, वो क्या है कि we will improve your life and standard of living through growth, but you have to give up freedoms. That's the standard thing. Okay? But what does this chap say? He says, I'll give you better environmental cleanliness. Your environment will be good. It is just not giving you prosperity. We will give you better quality of life. I will carry out anti-poverty campaign where there is no poverty left. Okay, and it is populist. I will give you common prosperity. I will give you spiritual prosperity. That's what Vishnathan is also saying. Communism and spiritual property, is this not a contradiction? It is a contradiction, but that is the way Chinese look at it. Their form of spiritual prosperity is through communism. Then the party will give you security. You will get better education. How? He banned all the education tech sector. Why? Because it is costly for people. So he's told people that you will get good education without paying more. But that's not happened. That's a different story. And he has organized schools better. देखिए ये पूरा कहानी जो है ना सोशल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में, it is not giving better roads, cars, ये वो. He is now hitting at the bottom. आपके नींव के ऊपर निशाना है. योर डेली लाइफ के ऊपर निशाना है. गेमिंग रेस्ट्रिक्शंस कि आप गेम्स नहीं खेल सकते हो ऑन कंप्यूटर, उसके लिए टाइम दिया हुआ है बच्चों के लिए ताकि बच्चे पढ़ें. और एट द टॉप लेवल इट्स ऑल नाइस, बट देयर नो फ्रीडम्स. ये नहीं कि आप कल के दिन लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल पी.आर. शंकर का ब्रॉडकास्ट देख सकते हो और या लेफ्टिनेंट जनरल पी.आर. शंकर कोई पॉडकास्ट कर सकता है. दोनों मना है. कम्युनिज्म के अंदर मैं सिर्फ पॉडकास्ट करूंगा तो वो परमिशन लेना पड़ेगा मेरे को, और पॉडकास्ट करने के लिए क्या बात करना है वो उसमें बड़ा उतना ही बात करूंगा. आप भी वही सुनोगे जो मैं वो जो सुनना चाहिए जो जी जिनपिंग सोचता है, और उसको इख्तियार करने के लिए पूरा कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी है. सो दिस इज द स्टोरी. This is beyond materialism. He says, free your mind to get into all this. I don't know what free of mind is, but this is his thought. We are not here to judge whether it is correct or not, but this is his thought. Remember, whole China is living under this thought. And he's asking for more from people to embrace the party. People should embrace the party and love the party. And ये नहीं कि ये ठीक है, आप हमारा फ्रीडम, आपको आपका फ्रीडम हमने ले लिया, आपको पैसा वैसा दे दिया, खुशहाली दे दिया, खुश रहो ना. You have to love the party. Okay, what are the other three strategies? Seven, after all, there are seven strategies. He says develop a socialist market economy, not a free market economy. Socialist market economy is a controlled economy where there is state steerage of the market, even at the cost of private growth. Private growth be damned. The state should prosper. Economic goals are laid out in this. This is very important. And that's how this whole story is going on. He says they value economic strength over growth. So that means the GDP is not important. As if the GDP of China is going down, he's not bothered. So the GDP is fixed at 5% for what we want, or 6% as we want. Whether he achieves it or not, he's not bothered. It will be achieved on paper. What he's looking at is the strength, and that strength comes from the structure which he feels he's put in place. And that means technological innovation and competitiveness. It also talks of made in China 25 strategy, which gives them the economic strength. I'll talk about it a little later. He talks of independence in tech and science. India, that China should be independent with indigenous technology and science. That's when China gets economic strength. Then there has to be economic order. That's the second part of the story of markets, of a socialist market economy. Economic order through enforcement of rules and regulatory regulations of the industry. So the industry is regulated. It can't do what it wants. So that means it's state driven. Then he talks of economic security through self-reliance, dual circulation, all that. Food security, common prosperity, ये सब economic security है. Okay. Then he wants to create a patriotic Chinese people who are these Chinese people, wherever they are, have to be patriotic to China. That's the first story. The second story is he says companies and scientists can work anywhere. They can take part in science because science has no borders. Business has no borders. But wherever they are, whatever they do, they should be doing it for China. They must have loyalty to the state. Nationalism and loyalty to CCP is important for everyone. He's laid down duties of the people for the state. All that patriotic Chinese people, hand culture is important. Love the country, love the party, love socialism. Either you do it willingly or unwillingly. If you do it willingly, fine. If you do it unwillingly, you have to follow the rules. That's the thing. Then he says, trust the party. There should be political loyalty. So that means you cannot be part of any other political clique except the CCP and Xi Jinping. So what has he done? He's changed people's life and behavior. That's what he's doing. 10 years, if you, and especially if your entire younger generation is only exposed to this nonsense, it will be like that. And imagine this, for the past 70 years, this story is going on in China. People say, why will Chinese people not revolt? How will they revolt? Anyone who's 70 years old started learning all this nonsense when he was in school. That was the time when Mao's revolution was in full blast. Then there's a global vision. That global vision comes through this word, which he said long back, common destiny for mankind. That is the Sinocentric order. It is based on an ancient order, fundamentally, when China was at the center of Asia, East Asia, in the Qing and the Ming and the Ding dynasties. He wants to transpose that to the world. उन दिनों में Imperial China at that point was the center of the world. That's called Tianxia. Now that has to be magnified into the world. And what are the vehicles to take that forward? Is BRI, is security, initiative, civilizational initiative, development initiative, communication initiative. All this will do that, and he does that through existing structures, which means that through existing structures of UN, international bodies, he will capture them and then rule the world, so that the Sinocentric vision is given to all of you. This is all recorded. That's the beauty. That is why I keep saying China will never, I mean, mark my words, will never allow India to grow. It will always strive for to bring down USA, because these two countries threaten China the most. Till China gains independent, or rather hegemony in Asia, it cannot be a global power. And the only power which stops China from doing so is India. And it is USA which stops China from becoming a global power. Right now, the contradiction for China is it is attempting to do both. It has got two powerful enemies. These are super states, big population, big states. You can't conquer them. When people say, "Oh, will there be a war between China and India?" He knows he's not a fool. He'll box you. You should be prepared to box back. This is my view. Someone else can have another view. What is this made in China? These are the 10 points of made in China. And if you see, he's doing exactly this. Today, there's a thrust on medical devices export, information technology, aerospace equipment, railway equipment. That's why high speed trains. He says this is what these 10 fields will give him the economic strength. Ocean engineering and high tech ships, new materials, power equipment, agriculture machinery. If he doesn't have that, food security is gone. Robotics, green energy and green vehicles. इसके ऊपर तो आजकल जोर है. So this made in China comes straight out of Xi Jinping thought. Okay. Now I will take you back to an analysis which I did long back. I'll go through it a little faster and see the thing. What are the traits? I told you, he is very opaque and difficult to discern. पता ही नहीं है कौन क्या बोल रहा है, कब बोल रहा है. He breaks expectations. You expect something, he does something else. He has tremendous population to achieve greatness, common prosperity, anti-poverty. He's very popular with the masses. He's audacious without bounds internally, removing people, sacking guys, throwing them out, killing all his competitors. Externally very cautious. These are his traits. He promotes his own cult of personality. That's what this cartoon also says. He's ruthless and ambitious. There's no doubt. He wants to be bigger than Mao and Deng Xiaoping. No dissent, intolerant of dissent. He's in a hurry. This man is in a hurry. That is why he tried to impose a solution on the border in 2020 by Cup. He does not for anything else. He says the border will be what I decide. Unfortunately, it has backfired on him. He is prone to U-turns and economic flips. He's done that during COVID. He started by looking at GDP, yeah, all that. Now he's not bothered about it. So there's a flip. He controls every aspect of, or wants to control every aspect of life in modern China. That I explained to you. He manipulates political conventions and bureaucratic inertia. He puts them out. Does not hesitate to purge. He's got a selective view of history, whether it's Mao, Deng, Lenin, or Marx. These are the traits which come out of his thought. Okay. What about his leadership? This is something which I wrote about, I think, 7, 8 months back. I mean, those are just slides I brought back to compare what those thoughts are and what I had written. And I've not been wrong. He wants strong leadership of the Communist Party with one strong leader. He's the chairman of everything across the machinery of state, party, and military. Personal loyalty is a criterion for membership of the senior echelons of the party, irrespective of the impact of these decisions on international or domestic markets. Everyone has to be oriented towards Xi Jinping, right? The Communist China Party is more authoritarian and less open than it had been in any point since Mao Zedong. That's what he's done. That's what the leadership is given. And then, of course, people close to power are more fearful and access to information is less widespread in his leadership. People are very scared of Xi Jinping. Okay? And what else about his whole story? What is his dream? There's something called 200s. We don't understand this, but this is interesting to know. Yes, China must become a moderately well-off society by about 2020. It's not 2020, it is 2030. That is the 100th anniversary of CCP. That's a mistake. 2029 was when CCP was established. Okay, so 100th anniversary, China to become a moderately well-off society. The modernization goal of China becoming a fully developed nation by 2049. That is when China got independence or PRC was established as per them. The 100th anniversary of the People's Republic. Now, a moderately well-off society is where all citizens, rural and urban, enjoy high standards of living and completing urbanization. That is roughly 1 billion people, or out of the 1.4 billion people, 70% of China's population by 2030. This is the aim. This is his Chinese dream. The problem, by then, they would have lost people. By 2049, they are going to have at least 40 to 50% people above 65. 60, not even 65, 60. So how can it be well off? But that's his dream. I cannot help it. That's what he's laid it out. लिख के दिया है सब. So these chaps are selective about selling their dreams. Then what is his plan for China dream and rejuvenation? With a strategy grand plan. Same thing which I had given. Let me reiterate very quickly. Economic growth and development, improvement of standard of living and catching up with the West, anti-poverty programs. He wanted to double the GDP per capita by 2035 and modernize political, economic, and social systems by 2049. It had 4 parts. Strong China, which is economically, politically, diplomatically, scientifically, militarily strong. Civilized China, equity and fairness, rich culture, high morals. Harmonized China, amity among social classes. That is basically to put the Tibetans, Uyghurs, Manchurians, Mongolians all in his basket, including people from Hong Kong. Beautiful China, healthy environment, low pollution. Is it happening? It will not happen because China is the most polluted country. There's no water. There's climate change. I've spoken so many times. Can there be harmonious China? It will not be there because he's never harmonized them. He's also put them into concentration camps, whether it's Uyghurs or Tibetans. Right. Actually, it's not a strong China either. Economically, it's not going to be strong. Right. Then, socialist principles to address many forms of inequality. endeavors to enhance China's international position commensurate with its newfound capabilities and security needs. Move China closer to the center stage of world affairs so that Chinese will no longer remain second class citizens globally. Yes, sir. Whatever he said, I'm elucidating. Wants to gain a grip on foreign government leaders and their business elites by encouraging Chinese companies to invest in their local economies. This is his plan, and he's doing it like he did it in Sri Lanka. Okay, what is the method? Now, here I compare Mao and Deng. Mao and Deng Xiaoping won adulation through revolutionary exploits and epoch-defining achievements. Xi Jinping took power as a relative unknown, which I told you. He built his appeal from scratch, winning favor through populist deeds, anti-poverty, common prosperity. Then he used media. It plastered Xi's name and image across front pages, websites, and television bulletins. मतलब आप जाओ तो 1 घंटे हर रोज आपको जी जिनपिंग का शक्ल ही देखोगे आप चाइना के अंदर. मैं तो गया नहीं, यही सुनने में आया. Party presses published hagiographic accounts of his life in a glorified manner. Primary schools describe Grandpa Xi Jinping, who hoped to see China's children become upstanding citizens. So he is appealing to them as a grandfather. He's accumulated titles of authority, becoming the party's core, military's commander in chief, people's leader. And this is a designation which is something like Mao. He was a great leader, Mao. This fellow wants to be the people's leader. So there is a method also for his thought, for execution. What is his performance? How is he performed? Little in Xi's past that has foreshadowed his actions as a leader. He's presided over the longest running anti-corruption campaign in CCP's history, used it to consolidate power and enforce political loyalty and control. This is what he has done. Cracked down on civil society movements, independent media and academic freedoms, overseen alleged human rights abuses in the northwest Xinjiang region, and promoted a far more aggressive foreign policy than his predecessors. All predecessors put together. He has imposed his views on education system and culture, ruthlessly controlled social media. He's destroyed all bases of power except his own. Centralized leadership, wiped out party factions, provincial groups, business tycoons who stood in his way. Whether it's Bojulai or Jimmy Lai in Hong Kong or Jack Ma, sab साफ. Presided over a new development concept. आजकल का गीत है new development concept. Essentials are revitalization of state-owned enterprises, large-scale industrial policy, new restrictions on the private sector, political assault on the tech, property, and private education industries, and a new common prosperity agenda. This is what he is doing. Actually, he is wrecking China. There's a mercantilized approach to international economic policy anchored to his doctrine of dual circulation. You bloody well take what China is trying to give you. That is why everyone is now up in arms against China for dumping, anti-dumping, EVs, green energy, medical appliances. All this are now under, being dumped on others through a mercantilist approach. Mercantilism is forced buying by the recipient country. He is striving for self-sufficiency and resecuring China's own global supply chains in response to America's strategy of systemic decoupling. Commitment to accelerate internationalization of the renminbi, more UN. Spelt out his ideological thought much earlier than his predecessors. I've spoken about it. Politics continues move more to the Leninist left, the economy to the Marxist left, and the Chinese foreign and security policy to a much more assertive nationalist right. Confusion. He prefers big state corporations over private sector and distrusts by private sector. What is his nightmare? Why did the Soviet Union disintegrate? Why did the Soviet Communist Party collapse? An important reason for that was their ideals and beliefs had been shaken. It's a profound lesson. He wants to avoid it. But my assessment is going back there. Okay, let's look at that. What is the USSR model? The communist model hid opacity. Rather, it was so opaque that it hid hollowness. In China, the hollowness is developing. Ghost cities are the prime example. There's corruption then, there's corruption now. There was loss of faith in communist ideology in Soviet Russia. Today, there are increasing protests. That loss of faith has not set in. The day that sets in, China will collapse. Dismal standards of living in Russia. Today, the standards of living in China are going down. I've done a lot of podcasts on that. This elite infighting was there in Soviet Russia. Here, he is not allowing elite infighting through rigid control. There's no question of infighting because everything is washed away. The rigid USSR system could not reform. He is very alive to that. So he is trying double reformation. One reformation, the Marx and the Leninist route, the other through the economic route. The chances are they'll fall in between. Right? Gorbachev wanted to reform, could not reset the Stalinist model back to Leninist principles, far less Marxist principles. Gorbachev failed there. Xi Jinping is reforming back to state control. From Deng's model and principles, he's taking them back to Mao's model. Something similar is happening between Soviet Russia and current China. Personalized politics stunted institutions. Same thing is happening here. Inefficient government-owned factories could not produce what the Chinese people wanted, and what the people wanted was not produced. This story has just begun in China. Supply simply did not match demand. Will it come to that? Is the question mark. Soviet Union could not service its debts. We know there's a debt bubble in China. The opposite will happen. It is not that China can service its debts, but all the financial promises given out for the debt are going to collapse, bonds and coupons. Over-militarized economy is common for both. So, if you look at it overall, China is actually maybe not as ripe as USSR for collapse, but one day it might. So we should not, and the best part is when USSR collapsed, no one expected it to collapse. The economy was strong when USSR collapsed. The whole story of USSR collapse started with the Chernobyl incident. And 5 years after the Chernobyl incident, USSR didn't exist. I have always felt that the pandemic was China's Chernobyl. It's now only 4 years. Let's see. Maybe 5, maybe 6, maybe 7. We'll see. But I'm not putting a timeline on it, but the tram lines are the same. Okay. Right. I finished my talk on Xi Jinping. I will take any questions which come after that. Right. Now, from 24th onwards, I'm going to start a series on technology and war, which others have know the channel you'll get. So if you're interested, join in. And what are the subjects I'm doing? Military technologies of the century and applicability in battle. Small and cheap technologies in battle. I'm going to discuss all this. The rise of rockets, how rockets have risen, and the technologies associated with the rockets. Right? Ubiquity of space in battle, how space has come up. AI and domain awareness in battle and how we need to do more. And does technology win wars? When I do these six, I'm going to get a feedback from all of you. Get all your friends over. I have already put out the links in YouTube on in Gunner Shot. So if you want, join in. These are six. I'll get others also as I go along who will join me in this podcast. And I'm also doing it for all the military officers who are appearing for the Defense Services Staff College exam. That's in September. But they get a good idea of all this. And I'm going to also run a scan of uh, our neighborhood, West Asia and East Asia and all that in between. So I'm going to have a packed thing till the first week of June. I would like you to join in, get your friends to join because this is going to be unique. And if you have any other thing which you want me to cover in this series, do let me know. I will cover it. And that you can tell me at any point of time. I will pick it up and towards the end I'll cover it. I want, like I said, Gunner Shot is different. Har roz nahi aata hai. Okay, I want to talk about this. The other day yesterday, I did on Operation Kohe Paima with General P.R. Kumar. I found this comment. I want to read it. Sir, it is painful to hear Indian generals extolling the so-called bravery of enemies. Even after 1971, Manekshaw has done the same. It is best for such magnanimity to be left to poets and such fluffy segments of humanity. For the military, being aware of your enemy's strength and fighting ability is understandable, but there's no need to praise it, either before, during, or after battle. Leave that out. Even the stories of Indian military plying and jointly partaking alcohol and food to Pakistani officers in captivity during 72-73 are painful to imagine. For the military, the enemy should remain an opponent, ideologically driven force against them, stripped of human values, and not as pitiable souls, unfortunately having to fight for their country. Unless we have Shatru Bodh, we cannot visualize victory, and our military leadership must lead this Shatru Bodh. This is what the danger. This is a communist in different language. Okay? ये प्रथा है, एक वॉरियर का प्रथा है कि वो अपना दुश्मन को ना समझे और उसको दुश्मन को भी प्रशंसा करे. उसका महाभारत का में देखिए, चाहे वेदर यू टॉक ऑफ कर्ण, अर्जुन, कृष्ण वर्सेस कर्ण or Yudhishthira versus this thing. You should never berate your enemy. You have respect for your enemy. The person on the other side is also a human being like you who's fighting for a cause, which is his country. And you should have the capability to recognize that. And if there is no harm in learning a lesson from it. Yesterday we talked of Captain Sher Karnal Khan, who died in Kargil. His body was not taken back. Our brigadier, who was commanding the brigade there, wrote about his exploits, how he fought for Pakistan, put it in his pocket, and then he handed the dead body over after rituals to a hero, which we did, they didn't. It was only much later it was conveyed to them, look in his pocket. They took out that thing in his pocket. Based on what Brigadier Bajwa wrote, he was given the highest honor in Pakistan. Who is better in this? Honor, valor is always more important. Then you should never hate your enemy in battle. When you hate your enemy, you will become like Pakistan or China. Then you are not following Mahabharata. ठीक है? हम भी पढ़े हैं, हम भी हिंदू हैं, अकेले नहीं हो आप लोग कि आप जो मर्जी बोलते जाओ। और ये जो आदमी जिसने कभी एक बूंद खून भी नहीं बहाया होगा, हमसे पूछो, जिन्होंने हमारा लड़कों को खो दिया है, हमसे पूछो, जो एक विधवा को बताते हैं कि भाई आपका आदमी वापस नहीं आएगा, क्या बीतता है। Then you develop respect for people. Yeah, anyway, I just thought I'll put it across. I don't want such comments. I don't mind such people not following Ganashwat. I couldn't care a damn. But human values are important. Remember that. We cannot be like others. That doesn't mean you have to be soft. You can be hard, but just. Okay, this is very interesting. This is according to Lieutenant General P.R. Kumar's talk today. Nawaz Sharif said, so what about Lahore declaration? It cannot evict the Pakistani soldiers from the ground. And finally, the ground and our actions will speak. This is my humble opinion. This is who's given. Is that Nawaz Sharif is an opportunist and two-faced. I agree with you 100%. Surely the Indian intelligence too would have studied what happened in the 15-year span from 99 to up to 2015 when Modi landed in Narendra Modi landed in Lahore for an informal visit. Even now, there are talks about a reasonable tension relationship between them, Nawaz Sharif and Modi. My first question is, knowing about the whole double-faced Nawaz Sharif, why did Modi visit him? Why did our Prime Minister visit him in Pakistan at the beginning? He landed up there, उसका granddaughter का wedding के लिए. To make an effort, to just make an effort. No harm in making an effort. When he saw that the effort didn't work, he let go. Okay. Second question: presuming Nawaz Sharif has changed, how long before he turns 180 degrees when opportunity arises? No question about that's why I go with what our Prime Minister said. उसको छोड़ दो, जो करना है करने दो उनको. वो अपना 2 वक्त के रोटी खाएं ना खाएं, जो करें करें, छोड़ दो उनके, अपने हाल में छोड़ दो या बेहाल में छोड़ दो. That's the right approach. Okay. Then, of course, there's a great presentation by Dr. Chen on Taiwan, and he wrote a lot and he's given good points, very good points. Okay, of how do we take it forward? Need direct flights between Indian cities and Taiwan. Exchange students between Indian and Taiwan and universities. Very good. Increase tourism. Learn Chinese language from Taiwan. Right? Shut down Confucius institutes. Learn how they counter Chinese espionage and all that. Right? Looking forward to more discussions with Dr. Christina Chen on Gunner Short. Thanks. My problem is, I get people from Taiwan, I get people from outside. No one listens, sees it. I've hardly got any viewership. So what's the big deal? Why should I get? So think, if you want to really feel that, you want the best people from abroad to come, there should be some enthusiasm for them to see. Otherwise, what's the point of my trying to get a chap from Taiwan? And a learned person from Taiwan comes and speaks and we don't see also. So that is the thing. So we have to be very clear what we are talking of. प्रॉब्लम हम में, हमारे अंदर है, हमारा दिल में है और दिमाग में है. Okay, I have done with today's whatever I had to talk. I'll take questions. Okay. First is, of course, welcome as Kirti Bai. Right, welcome as my new member. Grateful to you for have joined. Okay, let me take one by one. So I saw a video of Kuki militants surrounding an Assam Rifles APC. They are named, armed, and had an RL. as well climbing on APC. As an officer commanding, considering backup is not available, what to do? What's the SOP? There's a SOP. You don't fire at them, they'll say that. There's a method of handling it because it's easy to fire, it's easy to do things. And how do you know they're cookie militants? I mean, it is because someone said it's cookie militants. So we don't know. Those people on ground know. And these things happen. This is the tough things which you have to take a call there. There are SOPs which you have to act on. At times the SOPs don't come to help. Your ability to handle a situation on ground is more important. Are there any Z bucks like Modi bucks in China? Should be, right? As an OTA aspirant, I'm miffed as all top posts are regularly occupied by NDA graduates. They join early, but from OTA, we too join at 2022. Surely OTA must have produced one serious worthy man. Look, becoming a chief of army staff is very difficult. Okay, just let me tell you, becoming a chief of army staff, once in 3 years, a person becomes chief of army staff, which means that it's not a matter of becoming a chief of army staff is not a matter of capability. It's a matter of luck because you have to be one amongst the 3 years. You have to fall in that slot. Your merit has to be high. Your age has to fit in. Okay, and it's purely that means you are looking at 3 years means 6 regular courses and 6 short services courses. 12. Okay, that's a big number. So don't get involved with all this thinking. And you are just aspiring. First, become a lieutenant, and then we'll talk. Okay, you have a long way to go before you can think of becoming a chief of army staff. For you, I must tell you, if you already started thinking of becoming a chief of army staff, you will not go into OTA also. Let me assure you this now. The best rank I got when I got commissioned was a second lieutenant. The next best rank was the lieutenant. Then the best rank was captain. Okay, it's slowly one rank by one rank. And I never expected to become a brigadier. I became. I said, yeah, brigadier ban gaya bahut hai. Someone made a major general out of me. Then a lieutenant general. I knew the day I became a lieutenant general, I'll never become a chief. So we know it's not that, and it doesn't mean that that only NDA officers and IMA officers become direct entry officers become chiefs. I mean, become 3-star generals. A lot of short service officers become 3-star generals. Okay, so don't have this thinking right from now. That's foolish thinking. In my measured view, communism is an economic idea gone political and applied in its various forms, including but not limited to violent intervention. Yeah, I agree with you completely. It started as an economic model by Marx and Engels, became a political movement through Lenin, and it was applied violently by Mao. So you're right in all counts. How can social media affect ops on ground? Yeah, we'll talk of it in that series. Okay. We'll talk about that series. Social media is one of the cheap technologies which affects battle. I'll talk of it. Okay, I've qualified for SSB recently. Congratulations. Also given CAPF exam as SSB is unpredictable. In case I join ITBP, what will job and responsibilities like? It's the same. Don't worry. They will tell you. Will I be subservient to army? Good choice. Everything is a good choice. You wear a uniform. It doesn't matter whether you wear an ITBP or in army or in police. A uniform service is a honorable service. Go and serve. Yeah, communism and spiritual property is this not a contradiction? It is a contradiction. That's what I told also. Okay. It would appear that Z attempts to convert his form of Z's communism into a religion with its own related ideology to subjugate the thinking population. I agree with you completely, Akash. That's what he is doing. He wants to propagate himself. But there are a lot of problems in his thinking. Mao's revolutionary thinking was completely violent. It didn't matter anything. For him, economics didn't matter. Right? It was completely revolutionary and violent. So was Lenin. This fellow is not prepared to be revolutionary. सुन रहे हैं कावेरी टू इंजन हो गई. Maybe let it come out. Let's be patient. Has there been any movement on civil military and political military fusion? You're not dedicated session on it recently. There's no point in talking now. Let the new government come, then we'll talk. अभी से बात करने से वो सारे जितने पॉलिटिकल फ्यूजन करने वाले हैं वो तो अपना वोट मांग रहे हैं. तो वेट करो इसका. Chinese indoctrination can only be countered by madrasas training. Inclusivity of Sanatan and nationalism can't be effective. I don't agree with that. I think normal freedoms of democratic society can be countered, will counter indoctrination. Haven't we seen it in our country where you see West Bengal? It was a completely indoctrinated state. Tripura was completely indoctrinated. It has been de-indoctrinated. So it's not that. Okay, I hear China's long-term 2030 plan is to attack India with a combination of Islamic neighbors, Turkey. I don't know where you heard it. I have not heard it. Always glad to see you and eventually learn from you. Thanks a lot, Harshal. Thank you. Right, I'll take questions. Uh, I'll not take a second question from anyone hereafter. In the age of social media and propaganda, as an officer, how am I to keep my men insulated from whatever rubbish politician radicals speak outside? Asking because some Sikh boys mutinied post Blue Star. See, Blue Star was a different story. Uh, the army routine insulates you from whatever is happening outside. But Blue Star was too emotive, okay? And that is why there was an eruption and a lot of things came up about through, wild rumors, which people didn't understand. And they reacted. Today we are more alive to the whole situation. And our communication with men is far better than what it was earlier. I wouldn't say communication was lacking then, but the method of communication and social media awareness and all is far different. So it won't happen now. Can you talk about the updates on theatre command progress? And in your opinion, how long will it take for it to be in a fighting, fully synergized state to act like a theatre command? Look, this is what Snehesh Alex Phillips has given out. He says it's going to come with the new government within 1 year. But they might create a theatre command. For it to be fully functional, it will take about 5-6 years. Let's be very clear about it. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be a slow progress. And the problem is, how do you maintain your capability in this 5 years of transition? Transition management is going to be difficult. Yeah, I'll take this question because, how is India-led, China-led world order different versus US-led world order for India? Yeah, there's a big difference. There's a difference between democracy and communism. That's the thing. USA uses gunboat diplomacy. That is gone. Today, USA, look, you said about India and USA. USA doesn't then use gunboat diplomacy with India anymore. Okay, for us, a lot of our diaspora is in USA. They're common values. Okay, you can't be twisted. Right. Chinese thing, you will have to listen to what that bugger says. And his communism. Are you prepared to accept communism? Because that's his theory. So that's be very clear. So your point on USSR versus China model, every point contradicts and is confusing. It's not. Whatever has happened in USSR, the same thing is now getting replicated in China in some form or the other. That's what I said. Have a look at it again. Barring 3-4 points, they're all on the same lines they're going. Comment in China's case, now demand doesn't match supply as people have no. Yeah, I agree with you. That's the problem with them. USSR failed because Gorbachev wasn't as strong as Putin and left it in hands of corrupt Yeltsin. Not necessarily. The situation went out of control. It was beyond Gorbachev. When situation goes out of control, these things happen. And now it has taken almost 20 years for Putin to reform the whole system. When you have a system and that system collapses, it doesn't matter who's at the top, the whole thing goes down. That's the problem of any autocratic system. Democratic systems are more resilient. After all, if the central government falls tomorrow, India doesn't collapse. The state government will continue. The chief justice takes over. The president is there. The chief justice is there. There's a system to continue the democratic process till there's someone, either you have a president's rule or a stand-in prime minister. Under any conditions, till a new set of elections are held or till a new leader is installed. There's a methodology for transfer of power, whereas in autocratic systems it is not there. That is why they have a problem. What is the truth? Has China made any incursion into India or not? No, not is it. Yeah, looking forward to education and tech. Yeah, you must join. Many you tell your friends to join in. I'm going to make it different. Okay. What is Xi Jinping's view on Pakistan? What is the use of Pakistan other than its military, water, seaport, and electricity? Yeah, that's a very good question, Jack. So what I'll do is I will uh, do a program on Pakistan and China. It is only then you'll understand. I'll do it separately. Why Pakistan and China need each other? And this is not from now. It goes back to the time when Pakistan was the first state, one of the first states to recognize Communist China in 1949. So we'll trace it back. Fact book. Is Indian army ready to fight with China? Good question. I have a counter question. Is the Chinese army ready to fight with India? That's the question. Sorry to ask this, but don't know who else to ask. Across all continents, why is only Islam not compatible? Everywhere Islams go, they want to impose their culture and Sharia is their end game. Why? Really speaking, I'm not into it. I'm not, too religious minded. Why do you think China is going towards remote war strategy? Good question. As in people operating weapons from remote. None of their weapons, including recently launched aircraft, seem legit. They're worried. They propagated this war, short war, non-contact war, multi-dimensional war, all that nonsense. Suddenly they have realized war is violent like it's happening in Israel, and war is violent like it's happening in Ukraine, and it's long, prolonged, and bloody. That is why you see in Philippines they're hesitating to fight. They don't want to fight. The whole story is how to win without fighting. And they can't, they've realized that they can't do that. And Xi Jinping's thought, incidentally, also talks of coercion through a strong army rather than fighting. He's off late started talking fight to win wars. But I don't know whether he understands the ability, whether PLA has the ability to fight and win wars the way he wants them to do. Yeah, great questions. These are questions. Q&A sessions are still my favorite part. Thank you. I'll continue with it whenever, wherever. Okay. Is India capable of to fight a war against China alone if war broke out suddenly everything so soon? Saikat, you keep asking such questions. I think you have a negative bent of mind or a pessimistic bent of mind. I must tell you this. Why do you doubt yourself? You have to understand historically, after 62, we have never lost a war with China. So where's the problem? That's why I ask you the question: is China ready to fight a war with India? Okay. Yeah, I think we finished today's all the questions, most of the questions. I've taken one, two, depending on this thing. Thanks a lot. Uh, yeah, now tomorrow, right? We're going to do another interesting topic, 15th. Yeah, okay. And we'll get back. I'll get back to you. But more importantly, from 24th onwards, the you know the series on technology is going to be very interesting. So get your friends over. It's not that I'm not saying that don't get your friends for tomorrow's episode or anything. Get them over, which I'll make it more as interesting as we've been so far in all our you know episodes. Thank you. Good evening and Jai Hind till tomorrow evening.